Hello, Africans. Once again, we talk about issues of business interest, economic interest in the African continent, all across the African continent. I'm joined once again to talk about the reserved activities under the Trade Act in the Republic of Botswana. And the background is that the following businesses are exclusively reserved for the citizens of Botswana, according to the news story that you would have been seeing. The question is, how seriously is it taken by the people of Botswana, and why now? Auctioneering, car wash, cleaning services, curio shop, fresh produce, funeral parlor, general clothing, general dealership, hairdressing, hire services, laundromat services, petrol filling station, and takeaway food. Victor Baatweng is the business editor of Sunday Standard in Botswana, a very reliable voice, a very authoritative voice on matters related to business and of Botswana and SADC as a whole. Victor, welcome. Good to talk to you again, brother.
Thank you very much, Vic. How is South Africa?
Well, we are trying to get out of lockdown. I know it's something that you don't know anything about out in Botswana, but we are really trying to get the economy back on solid footing, which is why we are talking about the reservation of certain activities for Batswana, the natives of Botswana. Why now?
Yes, that's a very good question as to now and why not in the past or why not in the future. Look, Botswana has always been has been very good in doing things on paper. I would tell you that this thing that is being brought up now that is making international headlines is not entirely new. It's something that was spoken about in the early 2000s, and it was only put into a policy in 2012. They call it the Citizen Economic Empowerment Policy. In 2012, it was passed in Parliament. It has about 12 indicators which the government wants to target, looking at the issues of ownership of land, ownership of business, employment in managerial services. That's like any other nation could look up after its people. Just that lately, after the COVID-19, there have been realization that we relied much more on imports, on certain households' consumables. So the need to strengthen up that part then answers the question of why now and why the government needs to put money into the hands of the citizen. At the end of the day, the intention is to strengthen the ability of the citizen to actually manage and control the resources here in the country.
But give me an idea, is it the fact that in Botswana, these industries or subsectors, as I mentioned them, the car wash, the cleaning services, are being dominated by non-natives or foreign nationals? Is that an objective reality?
Yes, it's if you look at even the education curriculum in Botswana here, basic education curriculum is not favorable as the citizen, at least in terms of enterprise development. There isn't a single subject where you would say students or the children at school are taught in terms of enterprise, in terms of developing enterprises or inculcating the spirit of entrepreneurship in them. So to start with, the government then had to set up subsidies and some sort of interventions in the past, but they realized that this is not working for them. It has not worked for so many years. And what we realize is that when the coming of the Chinese here in 10 or 20 years back, they then started flooding the market, the retail market. Not just the Chinese, some of them is even South African retail chain stores like your Spar, your Pick and Pay. They are operating here. And what we got to realize is the fact that they even sourcing most of the, if not all of their goods from outside, even on the inputs or even on products that are available locally. They have not been procuring locally. So what the government then trying to do is such that if we have a Mopani worm, for instance, in Gaborone or in Botswana, the Pick and Pay want to sell a Mopani worm packaged well, then they're encouraging Pick and Pay to buy from the locals. If you go to things like laundry or any other service that is listed there, it's been on the hands of the foreigners. So the government is just trying to say, let's now have the citizen do, because in fact, the workers in those spaces are locals.
The question is, how is that going to work in practice? I already own a laundromat service business, or I own a general dealer. Am I going to have to sell to Batswana? Am I going to sell the business completely, sell a certain percentage, or what?
No, the government has actually made it quite clear that the license, those who have been offered license in the past, they are going to still get their license renewed. You are not going to be forced to sell any stake. You're not going to be forced to close shop. Just that going forward, any other new license would go towards Batswana. Those who are already in the space, they're lucky enough for them.
All right, which means there's still upward, what is it? There's still room for upward growth. You can still open more businesses, but it's just not going to work. How confident are we, Victor, that the law enforcement agencies will clamp this down and ensure that in 20 years' time, we are not looking back and saying the policy has been there, the Trade Act was passed, but still these subsectors are dominated by foreign nationals?
Well, I think it's not even it's not only, to answer your question, it's not just about law enforcement. It also speaks to issues like capacity. Have we built enough capacity of the citizen to actually take over? I can tell you that in some sectors, we have that capacity. Like if you go into banking, for instance, all the major banks here, even those who are originating from South Africa, like your FNB, they are led by local people. The capacity is there in terms of human capital. But if you go in other sectors where there's maybe a bit of manufacturing and agro-processing, people are still learning the skills on how to do that. So that's where the government now needs to put money and use some of the institutions here, like the local entrepreneurship authority, to actually build capacity before we could even totally close out. And if you realize in terms of some of the recent changes, it's such that the laws or the policies are just restricting, they are not making a total ban. And that is on its own admittance by the government of Botswana to say capacity, we are not at full capacity as yet.
A yes or no question for you. It's not a hostile act. It's not throwing people out. Are we not seeing an opportunity here that this could be something that President Masisi will be praised for in the future? It sounds like the toughness that you need from an African leader with regard to indigenization. Yes or no?
It's a yes. It's something that if it's put, or if it's rolled out successfully, then it can be remembered of. But mind you, like I said, it's something that came way back from as far as 2012. It's now at policy level, but the intention is to turn it actually into a law.
All right, Victor Baatweng, business editor of Sunday Standard in Botswana. Thank you again for giving us a perspective.
Thank you very much.